Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the 12 days of savings series. Now in this video, we'll be going over how I got over the fear and hump of investing and my personal investment journey. And maybe some of these tips and tricks will help you start investing in your own money. So let's get started. So as a bit of a background, I started investing around 5 years ago, and this is when I started to invest really seriously. My money before that has always been kept in cash in a regular savings account in my bank. So I personally bank with TD Bank. This is a Canadian bank. And then what I would do is just every time I get my paycheck, whatever money that was left over, it would just kind of sit there in a savings account. Now, my friends used to work at a bank, and they would always tell me that I needed to start investing my money. Like my money was just sitting in cash in an account and it's not doing anything. They were already investing themselves because they knew how the market worked. They knew how to invest because they work at a bank. I had another phone conversation with a bank representative and we were going through my accounts, and then she did also mention that I should be investing in my money because she's like, listen, you have 20,000 in your bank. Like, you need to start doing something with that. And I didn't do anything until a year later, where it started to sink in for me that maybe I should start investing, because I have all these dreams and goals of mine that I knew wouldn't be able to be met if I just kept it in a cash account. My first ever exposure to investment was with a GIC, or what the Americans call a COD. Now, I already had different part-time jobs at this point, so I had $3,000 that I used towards that GIC. It would expire after 3 years. And then after that, I would use that money to pay off my student loans. Now, what ended up happening was I got my $3,000 back, but I got like $13 back in interest. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot, but it was my first exposure to investing. And GICs are a very low risk type of investment. So if you're ever starting out in terms of investing, or if you want to get exposure to it, but not lose your money, I think that having a low investment type of asset like a GIC or a COD will be your best bet. I'm not going to get into the whole details of what all these different things mean. There's so many resources online, but I'm going to be sharing you my personal journey. So basically, starting off with the GIC, my first exposure. It was great, got my money back and a little bit more extra, not that much, but it got me really curious about how the stock market worked and how it could benefit me. So I started off with the GIC and then moved on to mutual funds. Now for mutual funds, I didn't spend a crazy amount of money. I didn't spend $3,000 like I did for my GICs. Instead, I would start off with $200, $300 first, just to get my feet wet and to not overwhelm myself. So I was okay with losing $300 if it ever came down to that. When you are investing, be okay with the money that you are comfortable with losing. You can invest with $100, $5, $1. As long as you kind of get that exposure to investing, that is what is most important. That's the misconception. You do not need a lot of money to start investing. So back to my story, I started with GICs, then moved on to mutual funds. Now, $200, $300, I was doing okay. I was making maybe just like $1, $2 off of these mutual funds in the very beginning years. And I was impressed with myself. Like, wow, I was not doing so bad. And then I got really, really interested into money. But who isn't, right? But, my family came to Canada as refugees. And I knew from the very beginning that I never wanted to be in their situation where money was always a struggle and money was always on the forefront of my mind. I wanted to live a lifestyle where I can support myself comfortably. And part of that was obviously through investments. I knew that if I started to invest my money, then I can probably get to a lifestyle where I've always wanted and never have to struggle or worry about money. So that's when I started to dive deep into ETFs. Going from mutual funds to ETFs, I found a greater return. So a lot of my money went into ETFs instead. And I will go into specific ETFs that I personally invest in my next video. But basically, as of right now, a lot of my money is in ETFs. I would say 40% of my investment portfolio is in ETFs. Now, from the time that I started until the current day now, which is like 5 years later, I can say that I've made an 18% return on my money, which is around 15,000 Canadian dollars. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money that I would not have if I hadn't invested. After I invested in ETFs, I started to dabble a little bit more in stocks. So I would buy individual stocks that I personally enjoyed using in my day-to-day life. For example, like if I bought coffee from Starbucks, I would buy Starbucks stocks. I actually don't own any Starbucks stocks, but that's just an example as to how I incorporate my investment strategy with my daily life and things that work for me. Now, how can you get over your hump of investing and fear of investing? Start off with something small and start off with a low risk asset. So this can be a COD or a GIC. I'm not going to get into very specific details of these because this will be a very long series. I think that if you are really worried about losing your money, and that's very valid and understandable, start off with $1. If you are okay with losing $1, start off with that. If you are okay with losing $10, start off with that. I started off with $3,000 because I knew I was going to get the money back. But when I started to get into more riskier assets, I was like okay with $200, $300 being lost if it ever came down to that. Now, start off with a number that you're completely comfortable with. Don't let fear stand in the way of your potential financially. Again, start off with something small and then move your way up. Once you get more exposure to types of different investments and how your money can work for you, how those ups and downs can really actually work for you in the investment world, that's when you can go into riskier assets. So as a summary, start off with something low risk, low money. If you are okay with losing $10, then start off with $10 as an investment. If you're only okay with losing $1, start off with $1. There is no hard rule as to how much money that you absolutely need to start investing. That is a big misconception. People think that you need thousands of dollars to start investing. You really don't. You can very much start off with $10 as an investment. Once you kind of get your feet wet into the investment world, what you can do is start looking for things that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. So for me, I was very comfortable with mutual funds. Start looking into that. Start expanding your world in investments. So as a summary, start low. Low risk, low amount of money. Number 2 is get comfortable with the ebb and flow of the economy. We all know the economy goes up and down thanks to inflation. Once you start getting comfortable with putting your money aside and letting the market do its thing, that's when you can kind of shift your perspective into getting used to the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of the economy. Sometimes your $10 might gain 1 cent. That's great. Sometimes your $10 might lose 1 cent and becomes $9.99. That sucks. The economy does move up and down, and this is for our benefit. Again, just going back to what I just said, start low. Number 2 would be to get used to the ebbs and flows of the economy. But because you already started low, when these changes happen where your money goes up or down, you're not going to be completely shocked. You're not going to be completely overwhelmed. You're not going to have sticker shock. You're going to be okay because it's just $10. And then once you get more used to the ebbs and flows of the economy, that's when you can start going to riskier assets. Okay, I am okay with losing $10, but what if I added in another dollar? What if I added another $2? That's $12. This is basically you slowly getting your feet wet and warming up to the idea that, you're going to lose a little bit of money here and there, and it might go up, it might go down. However, you're not going to lose all of your money unless you make a very risky investment. All of these things that I just mentioned, GICs or CODs, mutual funds, ETFs, I personally have never lost 100% of my money. And that's because not only did I start low, but I got used to the idea of the economy moving up and down. And I knew that if I was going to put my money into these investments, that I'm going to get some of my money back. Now, these investments are considered medium risk, so more so ETFs than GICs. But basically, there are different risk levels for each type of investment that you make. How I got over the hump of investing is I started low and I started small. Don't feel like you need to know everything about investment before you start. You don't need to read a bunch of books. You don't need to read or watch a bunch of these financial YouTubers talking about all these things that might overwhelm you. Don't start with something that will overwhelm you. Start with something easy. Go to your bank, talk to your financial advisor, ask them, I want to invest $10. How can I start doing that? I will list some resources down below for you where you can see what your risk tolerance is. Now, risk tolerance is basically how much money you're willing to lose if you were to invest your money Low risk is like you're very, very risk adverse and you don't want to lose any of your money. So just to reiterate in a long-winded way, start low, start small. Don't need $1,000 to start. You can start with $1, you can start with $10. If you really want to be able to grow your money passively and get to a place where you have savings for your retirement, savings for a new home, other big milestones that would require you to spend a lot of money, definitely think about investing, because it definitely gave me a lot of benefits and other people benefits as well. And this is where you can start. I believe in you. I'll catch you in my next video where I'll talk about what investments that I personally make myself and how that has worked out for me. Thank you so much for watching this very long-winded video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye.